Welcome back to The Critique. Today we're diving into the latest chapter of basketball's greatest rivalry.
A pretty one-sided chapter, it turns out.
That's putting it lightly. The Boston Celtics defeated the Los Angeles Lakers 126-105 at TD Garden, really just exploiting a Lakers squad that was missing both LeBron James and Luka Doncic.
And you saw that immediately, didn't you? I mean, a 39-17 lead for Boston after the first quarter.
Yeah.
That tells the entire story right there. It shows you exactly what happens when you pull the main pillars out of that Lakers structure.
Absolutely. And that, I think, takes us straight into our first big point of critique here, which is all about that Laker identity, or maybe the lack of it. The Lakers' reliance on their star power was brutally exposed, and the lack of primary creators just magnified the challenge of playing a road back-to-back.
It's the perfect thesis. Because losing LeBron, and we're hearing about sciatica and foot arthritis, which are not small things.
Right.
Not minor. And then Luka Doncic is out for personal reasons. You take both of them out, and the entire Laker offensive identity just evaporates.
It does. And you add in the fatigue from that tough win against Toronto the night before.
Yeah.
And they just had nothing in the tank. No playmaking, no defensive communication. They were walking right into a buzzsaw against a fresh Celtics team.
But the weakness here, and I think the analysis gets this right, is that it's not just about being tired or having bad injury luck.
No.
It's a systemic failure. It's a failure to have any kind of resilient backup plan.
It's an architectural problem. You know, they're built like this beautiful house with two magnificent columns holding everything up. You take them out, the whole roof just caves in.
And it's worse than the roof caving in. It's that everyone else just stands around looking at the rubble. The offense just defaults to, like, 1990s iso ball.
So what's the fix? How do they solve that structural problem?
Well, the suggestion has to be a pretty fundamental shift in how they practice, what they expect.
Los Angeles has to proactively evaluate and strengthen its non-star dependent half-court schemes. I mean, they just have to, especially with a 40-year-old LeBron. You have to protect his health.
Right.
This depth question is going to define their entire playoff ceiling.
Okay, but let's make that actionable. Strengthening non-star schemes. What does that actually look like on the court? We can't just tell them to, be better.
No, you can't. You have to demand they commit to creating advantages through movement, not just individual talent.
And Austin Reaves is the perfect example of this problem.
Exactly. He was forced to be the main engine. 36 points, 8 assists. I mean, huge numbers.
Massive stats.
But those stats are actually a sign of a distressed system. He's a great player, but he's not a systemic foundation. If he's putting up those numbers, it's just life support.
It's emergency level stuff. So the tactical solution has to be about getting away from that. The ball can't just stick in one guy's hands.
It's about speed and collective action. My suggestion would be, for their next 10 practice days, they drill nothing but a playbook rooted in cuts and off-ball screens. It's what coaches call the .5 offense.
Okay, let's break that down for everyone because .5 offense can sound like jargon.
It's simple, really.
It just means the second a player catches the ball, they have half a second to decide, shoot, pass, or drive.
Right. It completely eliminates hesitation. It forces the defense into constant rotation, and you can generate open looks that way.
And you design those plays for guys like Gabe Vincent or Rui Hachimura to run, not just defaulting to a high pick and roll for Reaves.
Exactly. The system creates the shot, not the hero. That 39-17 lead Boston jumped out to, that's what happens when you have no initiation. A .5 system is your initiation.
That's how you build a resilient offense. It moves the conversation from they were tired to they are structurally broken. That's a huge step.
Now let's flip to the other side of that. The team that executed their system flawlessly, the Celtics. And the spotlight in the material is squarely on Jaylen Brown, and I think that is absolutely deserved.
He was fantastic. This was a statement game for him, even against a depleted team.
Jaylen Brown delivered a commanding, all-around performance that showcased the decision-making and playmaking maturity required to elevate the Celtics into an elite contender.
That right there is the so what of this entire game. Because for Boston to hit their ceiling, Brown can't just be a scorer. He has to be more.
Yeah.
And in this game, he was. He was controlling the tempo, attacking early, collapsing the defense to create for others. A true point forward.
30 points, 8 boards, 8 assists. The stat line is great, but the context is what makes it so important.
Right, but there's a weakness here in the analysis we have to address. The context is that he did this when Jason Tatum was out.
That's the question.
Can he sustain this when Tatum comes back from his Achilles injury, or does he just revert back to his old habits?
It's the core challenge, isn't it? Every great team in the playoffs needs two guys who can break down a defense.
Two guys, yeah.
If they don't develop that shared responsibility, they become too predictable. So the implication for Boston has to be that this is about continuity, not just convenience.
I completely agree. So the suggestion has to be that even when Jason Tatum returns, the Celtics have to continue empowering Brown in this high-usage initiator role.
You have to. It makes your offense more versatile, more multidimensional. It even takes pressure off Tatum, who, let's be honest, can sometimes get a little ISO-heavy and slow things down.
Okay, but how do you actually do that? How do you institutionalize that for a superstar who's used to being the primary guy? It can't just be a suggestion from the coach.
It has to be structural. You build it into your game plan. The proof of concept is right there in the box score from this game. 31 team assists, a season-high 24 made threes. That's what happens when Brown is dictating the pace.
So the actionable step is to make sure this isn't just a luxury they have when Tatum's out.
Exactly. So here's the concrete suggestion. You institutionalize it. For the first 5 minutes of every single game, the offense runs strictly through Jaylen Brown initiating on the strong side.
I like that.
You force him and the entire offense to operate in that mode. It becomes a foundational habit, not just something you do out of necessity.
That's smart. It forces growth. It stops the offense from defaulting back to Tatum iso ball in the fourth quarter of a playoff game, which has been their death knell in the past.
It forges a temporary strength into a permanent weapon.
And speaking of that offense, let's move from Brown to the team as a whole, because that three-point shooting was it was on another level.
24 threes. It's a staggering number.
The Celtics prove that their deep rotation and commitment to pace and spacing create a genuinely high-functioning modern offense, one that's capable of sustained dominance.
The key observation is that their whole ecosystem is built on collective movement. It's not hero ball. They're passing up good shots to get great shots over and over again.
But we have to acknowledge the context.
Of course.
The weakness is that this happened in a perfect storm, at home against a tired, short-handed rival. Is there a danger in overreading this? They weren't exactly facing a lockdown defense.
That's the critical question. How do you make this sustainable when the stakes are higher, when every shot is heavily contested by a team that's fresh?
That's where the suggestion has to be about mindset, not just tactics.
Yes, Boston must maintain this aggressive, fast-paced mindset and that constant perimeter pressure. This collective effort, 5 starters in double figures, is what let them slam the door when the Lakers cut it to 15.
So they can't use up on the gas.
If they slow down, they start to rely on individual talent again, and that just defeats the whole purpose of having this deep, versatile roster.
It's about believing that the process, the ball movement, is more reliable than any one shot. But how do you reinforce that, especially on nights when the shots aren't falling early?
You focus on what enables the shooting. The concrete examples are the role players. Derek White hits 5 threes. Jordan Walsh adds 17 off the bench. Boston's 24 threes is way above their season average, which is already 4th in the league.
But you can't just hope White and Walsh are hot every night. The suggestion needs to be more metric-driven to reinforce the behavior.
I agree. Let's give them a metric to track. The coaching staff should emphasize something we can call a shared advantage creation metric.
Okay.
Track how often guys like Peyton Pritchard or Derek White are passing up their own good shot to create a great shot for someone else. We can even call it the Pritchard pass to make it simple.
I like that framing.
It's not about the assist stat. It's about the decision to keep the defense rotating one more time.
That ensures their system stays sound even when they go cold for a few minutes. It elevates the whole analysis from just they shot well to their system enabled them to shoot well. And that's a model you can win with.
Let's shift back to the Lakers for a minute, because there was one small but I think strategically important moment in this game.
The Bronny James debut at the Garden.
Yep. Even in mop-up duty, it's a moment. And the analysis of these developmental minutes is really vital. Bronny James's limited minutes in the blowout provided valuable data and controlled acclimation to NBA pace, signaling a thoughtful pace development plan by the Lakers.
And it's tough. Rookie development is messy on a team that's trying to win a championship. So using these lopsided games to give him some low-pressure reps, it makes sense.
But here's a potential weakness in that line of thinking. If you only give him minutes in blowouts, his development is left completely to chance.
It becomes an anecdote, not a plan.
Right, a feel-good story, not a measurable step in a player's career. You have to integrate him more intentionally than that.
That's a great point. Development can't be dictated by the score.
So the suggestion is to formalize it. The Lakers should continue scripting these controlled bursts of development. 5 minutes in the Garden is huge for confidence. But those minutes need to be treated like a practice run with measurable goals, not just a little bonus at the end of a loss.
So to make that actionable, what are they measuring? He checks in with about 6.5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Finished with 5 points, 1 assist, shot 2 for 3. Efficient, but what are you really learning from that?
The concrete suggestion is to get really specific. Give him measurable, non-scoring tasks for every 2-minute burst he's on the floor.
Like what?
For instance, tell him his only job for these 3 possessions is to make every single defensive rotation perfectly, or to just focus on transition defense.
I like that because it gives the coaches immediate feedback on his discipline, his spatial awareness, all the stuff that doesn't show up in a 5-point stat line, but is absolutely crucial for a winning team.
It takes it from just a simple story to a strategic development note that has real weight for the rest of their season.
And by doing that, the front office gets a clear picture of what he actually is. Is he a shooter, a defender, a secondary playmaker? These controlled minutes are where you collect the data to answer that.
It transforms a question mark into a strategic investment. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from systemic failures to individual growth. For the listener who submitted this, let's recap the actionable insights.
First, for the Lakers, they have to address that star fragility. They need to build a resilient, non-star offense using those 0.5-second principles. They simply can't afford to collapse when one guy sits.
Second, for Boston, Jaylen Brown's development as a high-usage initiator is absolutely critical for their championship ceiling. That needs to be formalized by, say, scripting the start of every game to run through him.
Third, Boston's modern offense, those 24 threes, that's their winning formula. They have to commit to it by focusing on metrics that reward ball movement, not just the final shot. Keep the pace high.
And finally, those developmental minutes for Bronny James need clear, specific, and measurable non-scoring goals. Turn them from feel-good moments into real, meaningful data points for his growth.
That really does summarize the path forward. It shifts the focus from just analyzing what happened to demanding what comes next. But at the end of the day, there's a big picture question hanging over all of this.
Always is.
Are the Celtics officially rounding into a true contender identity by showing this kind of systemic dominance?
Or, for the Lakers, is their entire season just going to be decided by the severity and management of LeBron James's health, his sciatica, his foot?
A question that really defines the entire landscape of the league this season.
Absolutely. Thank you for helping us push this critique and really sharpen the analysis. To our listener, keep pushing your work. We invite you to implement these suggestions and submit your refined piece back to us for another in-depth critique.